Thank you, Brian, for a nice introduction. Now you know everything about myself. I'm very happy to be here to talk to you tonight here at Globis Tokyo campus. The topic of my talk tonight is a big topic, competing in the global pharma market. I'm not heading global operations. I'm a local head of Japanese business. So what I try to do is I give you the perspective from the country management of one of the largest markets in the world. Also, as one of the 40 senior leadership members of the corporation. My talk will have 4 parts. First, I'll give you the quick look at the pharma market in Japan. And then secondly, I'm going to brief again introduction of the Boehringer Ingelheim as a company, global and business in Japan. And then I'll talk about my leadership style. And this is a topic I like to spend a good part of my talk. And then lastly, talk about the global leadership in Japan. Now, I'm not here to give you a lecture because I'm not a professor and I'm just a simple, ordinary business person. So instead of giving you the ideal world, how things should be, what I thought I should do is to give you real life experiences and challenges I'm faced with every day. So that's how I like to conduct today. Sounds good so far? Okay. Now before I start, let me ask a couple of questions. First, those of you who plan to become president of a sizable big company. Okay? Good. Let me ask, in which time frame? In 5 years? 10 years? Longer. Next question is, those who plan to intend to set up your own business. And the next one is, how many of you like to work abroad? Okay, not too many, okay. So those who raise your hands, how many of you do not mind not coming back to Japan and stay international, floating around? Okay, good. So I hope I can inspire you into achieving your ambition. So let's start. So before I'm going to a real topic, let me give you a bit more background about who I am. So I've been in the pharma industry for the last 40 years. I went to Sophia University in Japan, and the reason was I thought if I go to Sophia, I may have a chance to go abroad. And I was fortunate enough to have that chance. I got a scholarship of exchange student. But before I went to the States for undergraduate study, I wanted to make sure when I come back, I have a job waiting for me. So I spoke to the priest mentor who introduced me to one company, which is Nippon Roche. I did not check anything, so I had no idea what that company, Nippon Roche, does. But I went there because I heard that's a Swiss company, so sounded very good, Swiss. So, and I met Dr. Dupuy, who was a Swiss-French person, white hair, nice gentleman. He told me, young man, sounds good, but you'll be away for 2 years. So when you come back, if you still want to come back to our company, come back. That's what I did. So every 3 months I sent the grades, and which was not too bad. I came back, he was still there. So that was the start of my 40 years of career in pharma, so pure luck. So that's how it started. Roche had been very kind to me. Actually, I had been groomed to be one of the first Japanese presidents, and I spent there for 21 years, including 3 years in the States, 1 year in Switzerland. But when time came that I may be appointed the first president, there was a competition. And my mentor, his power situation got a bit weakened. There was another strong person in the headquarters who put some different name. And I didn't feel like working for another Japanese person, so I chose to leave, which I never thought I would. But the company was nice enough to give me 6 months in advance notice and try to tell me stay, but I chose not to. So I jumped out, and which was good because in Roche I was really protected. I had nice colleagues, but I mean, people thought I am being groomed, so I was really in a way protected. So I jumped out and I joined Rompulan Aurora, and which is a much smaller company. When I left Roche, I had 900 people reporting to me. When I moved to Rompulan Aurora, the company which had 600 people only, but I worked for that company for 2.5 years as president. And then I moved to Schering-Plough, where I served as a president for the last 14 years. Then Schering-Plough was acquired by Merck, which is now MSD. And they put their president, and I became a chairperson. And that's when I was spoken to by Boehringer Ingelheim, so I moved to BI for the last 2 years. So that's my career. As I say here, I served to 13 bosses from 8 nationalities. First Swiss, and then Argentinian, Peruvian, and then the Americans, including one woman, French, German, Japanese. I might have missed one, but anyhow. So out of 40 years, I had only 3 years of working for a Japanese boss, which was a good thing because he was a tough guy, very old, from old school. And he really fixed me because when I was young, I was a pretty arrogant, aggressive person. I don't like to think about how I was. But he really taught me how a real Japanese businessman should be. But otherwise, I worked for different kind of nationality people. Now, every country has a different way to do business. German style, which I'm with now, are very process-oriented, consensus-driven, and everything is openly debated. And whenever there's an issue, let's have a meeting, they just talk about it. And no emotion, just really talk about really keep talking about it. And at the end of the meeting, they decide. In the American environment, if you happen to be in a meeting with your boss, you'll be very careful not to say anything which may upset your boss, because your boss has your boss has full control over your life. And hierarchy is sometimes, I felt, maybe even stronger in American companies than Japanese companies. In French, you do not know when and how, who decides things. So I know at which meeting things may be discussed. I check with everybody, and things are discussed. It seems like that was discussed, but if I start to talk to everybody has a different view. But somehow, things are decided. So, but bottom line is, you should really find a way to work with your boss, regardless of nationalities. And boss has different styles. Some wants to work very fast. Others like to leave you alone. And one example I can give you is there was a French boss when I was with Schering-Plough. He is now the president of UCB headquarters. And he is a very sharp person, very fast. So think fast, talk fast, and everything was so fast. And when, I had 2 years, and that was very painful 2 years. When I went to the States, everybody who was reporting to him told me he's bad news. So that gave me a good relief because it was not only me who was suffering. And what I did was I started to be a bit ahead of him. So I started to put 3 hours more every day and 3 hours less to sleep. And then things started to work well because he was very happy because I'm thinking further ahead than him. So he was very happy. But that during those 2 years, my wife told me, you stop smiling at home because that's a price I had to pay. So anyhow, so that's how one can manage. So, okay, let me go into a real topic. So I should be very brief on the pharma industry because I can keep talking for a whole day. I just give you a snapshot using 2 slides. So first of all, pharma industry is a highly regulated market business. You need approval to get the drug on the market. And once you have a drug on the market, before that, you have to get the price, which is government fixed. Once you're on the market, what you can say is regulated. And how you interact with your doctors, what you can do, what you cannot do. There are more things you cannot do. Is regulated. So everything is regulation. So that's one special element. And then size is not too big. Production-wise, 6.9 trillion yen. And I think there was a recent announcement, reporting by Toyota. for the last quarter, April through June, sales was, I think, 9 trillion yen maybe. So no, 7 trillion. So full year forecast is 22 trillion yen. Compared to that, 6.8 is not too big. Then that's the size. So 90% of the business are represented by we call it prescription drug, which is a drug for which you need a prescription, which in the States we call RX. So let me just, for simplicity, call it RX business. Represent 90%. And OTC over the counter, where you can just go and drugstore buy, that represents only 10%, which is not growing. Then Japan is a big market, 11.2% market size in the world. Used to be 16%. Now, Japanese government has done a good job actually to try to make sure growth doesn't continue. So world market for last 10 years grew 2.4 times, so large market, large growth, where Japanese market grew only 11%. And so share went down from 16 down to 11%. By embarking upon many things, including price cut every 2 years and the other things, but that's how things are. Going forward, Japanese market looks good. In prediction by the market research company for 2016 indicates Japan represents 10%. So it's going to be, future it will be okay, but so far market has been becoming smaller. That's the composition. US, Japan, European countries are small. So Japan is by far the second largest market, and it will continue to remain like that. Then the number of manufacturers was 350, so it's a fragmented market, of which 70 Japanese companies do have research and development. Others just have only selling. So now, of this, top 10 represent 44% of the sales, and top 20 represent 60%. So it's a fragmented market. Share of foreign companies on the increase. Actually, classification between foreign and Japanese may not be appropriate anymore because maybe we should classify global players versus domestic players. Companies like Takeda, Astellas, Daiichi Sankyo, Eisai, actually these four, the half of their sales come from non-Japanese markets, so they are global players. So those, along with other Western companies, they are global players. But for the sake of simplicity, let me just talk about foreign versus Japanese. So foreign companies' market share is right now 37%. Used to be very small, and for the future, it will continue to grow because of the need to have major investment to come up with a new drug, which I'll talk about a little bit later. That's a ranking. So if you see top 10 today, used to be there was no foreign company, but this is, I think, last year, 7 out of top 10 are non-Japanese companies. And you see here, this is Nippon Behring Ingelheim ranking 16 last year. Now it went up. Now this year, up through August, January through August, year to date, we are ranking top 15. Actually, we are the second fastest growing company in Japan today, thanks to many new launches. Next feature is the heavy research investment. 20% of net sales go into research. And to come up with one drug which can be put on the market, it takes minimum 10 years, maybe 15 years, and costs 1 billion yen. That's 100 billion yen, I'm sorry. A lot of money. 100 billion yen can be size of medium pharma companies. So it's annual turnover. And chances of success is 1 out of 30,000. So if you come up with a substance, 30,000 substance, the one which makes the market is only one. And this 100 billion yen is the cost which cover the research people's cost who invest time and money to work on this 29,999 compounds. So that's how we calculate. But it's really highly research-driven business. And that's a new drug development flow, which is misleading because you should really, this should be sequential. Basic research where you try to find some substance, be it chemical synthesis or biotechnology, for which you need a couple of years. Then you want to test the drug using animals. and then this should be actually here. And then you go into clinical studies, which is testing with people, first healthy volunteer, and then patient. That takes up to 8, maybe 10 years. And then you file registration for the Ministry of Health and Welfare, which takes maybe one or 2 years. So all in all, 15 years. Once you have a drug approved, you get the price listed within 3 months. And then you have another 8 years or 10 years to collect data to prove it's safe and it's efficacious. And while you do that, by the end of that phase, you may be losing your patent. This is maybe 20 years. And that's when generics, you may be hearing a lot through TV commercials, generic drug. And I spoke about 100 billion yen for new innovative drug development. The generic can be developed using 50 million yen or maybe 100 million yen, so it's pretty cheap. So government is trying to promote the use of generics so that the health insurance or medical costs can be reduced. But in Japan, okay, before I go there, let me just compare how heavy research investment is for pharma industry. So average pharma investment for research is 12%, but if you look at top 10 investment, it's close to 90%, which is very close to the global leaders are spending for research. And other industries like 3%, so heavy research intensive. Now this is generic. And that's the recent every quarter since 2010, every quarter 2011, 2012. So in the unit, it represents now 23%. In value, it's less than 10%. And what would that mean compared to other markets? US today, generics represent 80%, more than 80%. And other European markets close to 70%. In Japan, still this is old data, as of 2009, but today, 23%. So if usage of generic will go up, then less burden for the health insurance. But today, because of the deep-rooted concern on the part of physicians about generic quality, safety, data, and supply stability. So its penetration is still limited. Okay, so I think I should be over with this. So it's a very labor-intensive market. 60,000 we call medical representatives. These are salespeople who call upon doctors to explain drugs. Calling upon 180,000 doctors, 1,000 work in hospitals, 80,000 in the private practices. So it's really labor-intensive. So final word on pharma industry in Japan is compared to other markets, US, Europe, where the actions are being taken in terms of trying to control medical expenses. In Europe, there is a big issue of access. Even if we come up with a new innovative drug, government may approve, but may not allow it to be price listed. And it's a matter of whether drug is meeting medical needs, but rather if the country can afford new drug. In the similar situation, but in Japan, fortunately, it's not there. There are some issues. There are many issues in Japan, but compared to other markets, Japan is much better. And in terms of talking with the ministry, transparency, ministry does not introduce crazy means without talking. There's transparency. That's one. The second thing is it's a market where the global players can gain market share because of the size. So global players, multinational, or Japanese companies who have been globalized. So that's a market which really favor the research-based companies. So that's a snapshot for pharma industry. Ooh, I spent too much time on this. Okay. Then the Boehringer Ingelheim. Let me be very quick. So it's family-owned company. I think you can see all this. Ranking 15. That's the size we have. The key is company is doing a good job, growing quite nicely. This is chart. Last 9 years, sales grew 2.5 times. 80% sales grew, and profit grew 2.5 times. And the reason for success is family-owned. Now, family-owned company is very unique because top 20, Boehringer Ingelheim is the only company which is family-owned. Why it's good? Because pharma industry, as I discussed, should have a long-term focus of trying to be really patient enough to keep investing money for R&D. And then the company can invest for the people, employees. So long-term focus can come from family orientation. Before I joined Boehringer Ingelheim, I spent 17 years for American companies. Every 3 months, I get a phone call, message, sell more, spend less. And I have 10 more days till the closure of the month. What can I do? There's nothing I can do. But still, phone call came every 3 months. Or publicly traded companies, they have to do it because they have to deal with the large number of people, investors who try to make money with the stock prices going up and down. If the company announces major restructuring, share prices go up. So it's a crazy situation, but none of this in the family-owned company, so that's strength. Strong culture, which I'll talk a bit later in the following slides, and organic growth. I don't expect you to read everything, but this is last 15 years. On the left-hand side, it's not everybody. That there were 32 companies which really went through M&A and ended up with 9 companies. So large global players are the result of M&A. And that's the result you see. So out of top 10, 7 companies on the list you saw. So these are they grew through buying companies. And Boehringer Ingelheim have not gone through this. So through the organic growth. That's a snapshot for our company in Japan. As Brian explained, you heard everything. But basically, the key message I have here is 2 years ago, we acquired a company called SS Seiyaku. I'm sure you know, many of you know, which became a 100% company. Now, SS Pharma has strong brand, company brand, and also major brands of the products. So we decided to keep the identity of SS Pharma toward outside, no change of SS Pharma from outside. For that matter, we created the holding company, Boehringer Ingelheim Japan, for which I'm the president, and there are 4 legal entities. So that's how we are. Now, another thing is many foreign companies used to have research centers in Japan, as they had so much money, so much cash. So they just built research centers. Nothing came out, so they closed everything. Now we are, I think, the only one foreign company which still have a research center, which is based in Kobe. Okay, values. This is Christian Boehringer, the 4th generation of family member. This is Dr. Barner, who is the head of we call it board of managing director, like executive committee members. He's a chairperson. Mr. Boehringer often uses a metaphor of a tree. So family or shareholders is the root of the tree. And employees are trunk. And the fruits are the new products which can help patients. And the profits are the energy to grow the trunk further and help tree bearing more fruits. So that's how he sees it. He comes to Japan twice a year, and he joined the meeting, but he doesn't decide on things. He listens, he talks to people. He talks passionately about the value and social contribution, so that's a family. Now, relationships are very healthy. Again, family has cash, and as long as they keep some portion of profits, the family reinvests the money for the research investment, and also the research and development and the employees' growth. That's the vision and value. Vision is value creation of value through innovation. Innovation can be new drugs, but can be small things which can add up. Some process improvement, which everybody can do in the office. And these are the 4 values: respect, trust, empathy, and passion. Now, every large company has a value statement, be that maybe 3, ranging between 3 and 7. Some may have 10. Now, what makes this unique is all 4 value words talk about how you work with, how you deal with, how you interact with people. Talk about mindset of the people. It's not talking about the performance, result, excellence, none of that. So that makes this value very unique, and which is related to the BI being a family company. That's the Japanese version of that. But let me give you one anecdote of the value statement, which is these 4. when I went for an interview to Germany, by the way, Boehringer Ingelheim is a company which is owned by family Boehringer, which is based in a small town called Ingelheim. So that's how it's called, Boehringer Ingelheim. So I went to Ingelheim to meet Christian Boehringer and the 4 board members. And when I saw them, every one of them is such a fine person. And I could really feel I could trust them. And I felt if I could trust them, maybe they can trust me. In American companies, trust continues as long as business is good. But if business stops growing, then I'm being second guessed, so trust is gone. But that's not what I felt in Boehringer Ingelheim. So when I came back, I read annual reports and everything which I was given. And the culture was very clear. It's long-term vision to support employees and so to help patients. But I did not see a section, a chapter, which says, these are BI values. So the first meeting I went to attend in Ingelheim after I joined the company, I had a chance to meet Christian Boehringer, shareholder. And I asked the question, Christian Boehringer, I'm looking for value words. Where are they? And he said, I can give you 2. Trust and respect. Very quick, trust and respect. Then 6 months later, this was announced. So I was so impressed because he was really living the words trust and respect. And he was actually thinking about need to come up with maybe forecast words, and they came up with these 4. So that's the background. So this one, the key point is customer focus. Being a foreign affiliated company, the risk is you have so many discussion plan, annual discussion, budget discussion with home office. So you can be misled to believe your customer can be a headquarter. That's a big mistake. So just to remind everybody, customers are those to whom we can provide services, be that through services or products. So that's, as a reminder, we put customer focus in the center. Another one is, I was never a salesperson. I never carried a bag. So as such, I often try to go out with a rep in the field. And the job of a salesperson is a tough one because every minute, every second, you're confronted, you're faced with dealing with customers. And depending upon how you work, how you say, how you promote your drug, your company image gets better or damaged. So every moment is a full concentration. So internally, I tell everybody, the salesperson, we call MR, medical representatives. MR is our customers, so internal customers are MRs. Now, for MRs, they need finance people to get the money settled. They need HR to get the paycheck, and they need production people to get supplies. So in the end, everybody except you should be a customer. And if I, for instance, deal with my colleague as if I'm talking to outside very important customer, the company will become a good company. So that's the background for the customer focus. And then these 5 words are behavioral words, keywords, which were developed through my interview with actually 100 managers when I joined Boehringer Ingelheim. These are mostly strengths of our company, some weaknesses. So these are things we should strive to demonstrate every day. So that's Japanese, the culture version of Japan. Just to quickly, last year, Boehringer Ingelheim had 125th Jubilee celebration. And BI has been very strong in the social contribution. But an announcement was made to make it even stronger. So last year in Japan, there was an unfortunate earthquake. And one of the SS Pharma's plants was 10 kilometers away from the Fukushima power plant. And many people got affected. So quite a few, actually many people, many employees donated. The amount came to 20 million yen out of pocket. So that was donated. In addition, people wanted to do physically some contribution work. They wanted to go to the areas which are affected to help the people who are suffering still there. So we asked for the ideas for social contribution in the area affected, and 18 ideas came up, and 4 are chosen. And these are ideas which are supported by the company. We give 5 million yen in total for these teams. So different, just one. This picture is a 10-minute postcard project, which I attended myself last month. So we go to the people who live in temporary house, and we get people together. And we somehow teach them how to draw a picture. And pictures drawn are brought back to our company. And our company convert them to the postcard. And our employees put a message, encouragement message. That postcard is sent back to the temporary housing people. So that's a small project, but these are things we are continuing. So just to show part of our value. Okay. Here I should be very brief. Okay. Talent management, I think every company is doing it. So what makes a difference is how serious everybody is. This is a cycle. I don't think I have to explain this. Key is really cross-validation. So everybody is put in one of the 9 grids based upon performance, based upon the competency. And this goes through a rigid discussion process. So managers rate their people, and other managers discuss your people. And as a result, some high potentials are identified, and success plans emerge. And that's how we do it. And high potential-wise are defined as those who can take a job which is 2 ranks higher, and who are mobile into other countries. So high potential in our company is the global talents. And for each one of we have now 30 in the company. I know every one of them. And we have program for each one of them. That's the competency. So let me just be brief because I want to make sure I touch other part. Okay, my leadership. I'm not here to talk to you about any textbook, but I happened to see this a couple of years ago in Nikkei Business. This is servant leadership. When I saw this, I realized that's what I practice every day. As I said, out of 40 years, I have been doing the job of the president for different companies. I am here not because I'm a very smart person. I have no special brain. I have no special nothing. I'm here because of the good chance to meet great mentors, and thanks to great colleagues and lots of luck. That's how I'm here. I was the president for 4 companies. Ronplan Aurora, Schering-Plough, Behring Ingelheim in Japan. And last 10 years, I was also running SS Farm because there was no president. No matter where you go, what you find is the group of many dedicated, highly committed people. And these are people who are driving company. Now, can I do a better job in terms of selling than a salesperson? No way. Can I count better than a finance person? I cannot. Can I produce more than the production line person? I cannot do that. So in where we are, where I am, my job is to create an environment where everybody in the company can do his or her best. That's all I have to do. That's why I see my job serving people in the company. I like everybody working in our company to be able to say, I'm so happy I'm part of Behring Ingelheim. I like our customer to tell me, your company seems to have highly motivated, happy people. That's what I hear. So that's my focus. Now, in my job, I should be aware. People are looking at me. People are looking at me in terms of how I speak, how I look. And so I have to be really mindful. I become an even better person every day so that I can continue to be a nice role model. So that's how I see my job myself. Also, another way to say it is I'm like an orchestra conductor. We sponsor one orchestra run by a person called Mr. Inoue. And once he told me when he practiced, he can hear the music of every music played by every performer. And that's how he put everything together. So I see my job as a conductor to make sure everybody in the company does his or her best so that audience can get the best out of that. And for that, I cannot, but there are actually 27,000 people, but I like to know everybody, and I like to know what everybody does. So that's my goal. I came up with 6 things I try to practice every day. what I speak now is after I became the president, because that was my career goal, which happened 20 years ago, about yes. Till I got there, as I said earlier before, I was arrogant, very aggressive man. And actually, if I have a chance, I want to go back to the people who were senior than me at that time to apologize for my bad behavior. So I was too much focused on doing a better job than anybody. I thought I was the best in the world. I was fast. I was sharp. That's what I thought. Now, once I got to the top, I realized what I told you now. As a top person, what you should do is work with their people. Make sure everybody working in the organization is happy and motivated. So that's the basis of these 6 Ks. K stands for kakikukeko in Japanese. So first is kansha, thank. I am thankful to everybody who is doing his or her best every day. And I try to thank using many occasions. Through email, if I should thank somebody very quickly. When I thank somebody through email, I try to put a few more words saying, not only thank you, but I say, I heard from your boss that you did so. Thank you. Maybe it's a 2 minutes investment on my part, but for the receiver, means a lot. So why not invest a couple more minutes to just add a couple sentences? If I know nothing, I speak to the boss and get the inputs. I put it down. Next one is the humble. As you go high in the organization, watch it, because you'll be surrounded by yes man and yes woman who like to tell you what you like to hear. And you become very important, and other people, people surrounding you will make you feel very important, and you have to really watch it. You should not really differentiate between who you talk to, be it a taxi driver or restaurant, waiter or waitresses. If the service is so bad, I'm not as nice as I should be. But these are things I try to practice every day, so I'm not perfect yet. But being humble is very important. Kikubari, next one, ki. That's very, very important. I like everybody or anybody who saw me or who spoke to me to feel good about having met me, having spoken to me, feel happy. That's what I want to do. I greet in the hall, if it's a man, in the toilet, in the elevator, making sure there are nobody from other companies. But I try to greet. And if I know something about what that person does, I ask the question, how is that project going? If I know nothing, I talk about the weather, the family. I respond to any email, even just show thank you, because that's a courtesy, as at least to show you received the mail. One of the former bosses, actually you may know, Fred Hassan, who is president of Pharmacia, who joined Schering-Plough after he sold the company to Pfizer. He had a policy of not abusing email. So I worked for him for 3 years. And I just got one email to thank me, which came from his secretary. So did it please me? No way. But I make sure I respond. When I have some quick question, how much the sales of that brand by Astellas? I ask somebody in market research, but I make sure I say it's not urgent, because to disturb the workflow is the last thing I should do. Because again, the company is moving thanks to everybody working well. That should not be disturbing, so I do that. In some session of training, for instance, there's some reception. If there are 30 people, I make sure I speak to everybody. Because if I speak to 25 people, how would 5 who are not spoken to by me would feel when they go back home? So I think about these things. Again, I'm not perfect, and I miss it. Even today, for instance, I was talking to somebody in the hall on some business, and another person passed by. And I should have said hello to that person, but I did not. And I regret today. How would that person felt? Because usually I say hello, but I didn't do it. And so these are things I'm learning every day. So that's my theory on care for others. Keicho, listen, very important. the key, very key is really have and show genuine interest in the person you are talking to or you're listening to, be that person is from high ranking or less high ranking, or be that big topic or small topic, but no matter what, no matter who, show genuine interest. And also very important is you should really let that person to talk to you as he or she planned. If you interrupt, or if you show through your body language you don't agree or you're too busy, then the person will stop the tone. He may think or she may think you're not agreeing, so they may change. So that should be avoided. Also, I try my best to make the person who comes to my office feel very comfortable. Many people, or some people who don't come to me often, are nervous. So I try to make that person relaxed. Nodding can help. Again, different boss I used to work. This is the Argentinian person, a very sharp man. And this happens to many non-Japanese. When they listen with full attention, they just keep looking at you, no nodding. Huh? So I kept talking, no nodding. So I was thinking maybe he's not agreeing, he's not listening. So I kept repeating. At the end, he said, "I'm hearing you." So that's the conclusion. So I nod more when somebody's nervous. I nod less to the person who is often in my office. So these are things I try to do. Be ethical, Kyosa. No need to mention anything. The boss has to be very clean, highly ethical. In pharma industry, especially, crazy creative idea is illegal. So I tell my people, just make sure you walk in the center, middle of the street, but walk faster than other companies. That's all we can do. So that's a trick. The last one is the kotowaranai, K. Do not say no. If requests come up to me, that must be something very important, very serious. So if somebody asks me to go and apologize, I don't ask why. I go and apologize. If I can help my colleagues to do better business, or if what I do can help with the enhancing company image, I'll do that. So basically, I mean, if somebody comes to me to go today, it may not happen today, but I'll try to find different time to do that. So basically, no is not the answer. So these are 6 cases I practice every day. That's my motto, Zayu no me. This is really humbleness. Minoru hodo, kobe o tareru inaho kana. In English, the boughs that bear most hang lowest. The rice trees, they have rices on the top. So if the tree grows more, get down. So going up higher, you should be more humble. So that's my motto. Okay. What makes a good leader? I'm sure you have gone through this through your MBA classes. Maybe you can come up with maybe 2,500 qualifications. Huh? Let me just try some. So strong will to achieve set goals. You like to set ambitious goals. And you like to communicate to your people why that goal is important, how you can get there. You have to decide. You're living in the world where you don't have enough information. Based upon the limited information, you have to decide. You need the guts. You have to be fair in terms of judgment. You can add many things to this list. And these are things which are done by anybody who is heading a certain organization. So this is nothing special. To me, what's very important, what matters is humanity. That's what makes a difference. You have to be a good person. You have to earn trust by being who you are. You have to be respected by being who you are. People have to know that you are doing everything to your company and you are doing everything for the betterment of your employees. And people have to know you work very hard, you're really fully committed. So that's what makes a difference. Now, by being a good human being, by being a good person, you like to motivate your people through humanity. And that's what you should strive to every day. And that's the piece which is very important for me. And that can make a difference. Okay, my last part is, I'm focused on global leadership. Let me first talk about the jobs I do, which is jobs of local head of foreign companies. First one is, I have three. Establish deep trust with headquarters. This is the prerequisite to you keeping a job. If you don't have it, you lose your jobs. Now, Mr. Shina of IBM, former president of IBM. Today, IBM has a German president. Unfortunate. I have no interest in IBM, but IBM was one of the successful foreign companies. I have a good friend working there, and they had a big pride in themselves of having always Japanese president, and IBM in Japan, although capital was non-Japanese, was managed like a Japanese company, now a German head. But anyhow, Mr. Shina, I read him saying it. One of the Nikkei articles said, he said, I have 10 holes in my stomach, and 2 were caused by tough employees, and 3 came from tough customers, and 5 due to dealing with headquarters. And I can relate to that. So it's a tough thing. And one important thing is deliver promises. The sales profits you have to deliver. The key is you set the target which is high enough, ambitious, stretch target. If you overachieve every year, that's bad. People call you low ball shooter. You are expert of trying to set the target too low so that you make sure you achieve it. Once I miss a target by 40%, bad year. Next year, I achieved the target, I exceeded by 40%. Both years, I was bad. Because you have to be very precise on the forecasting ability. But anyhow, if you set a stretch target and if you make it, you're perfect. But if not, my recommendation is try to come up with a stretch target. And even if you miss it by a small margin, you'll be okay. It's better than the achieving by big margin every year. Next one is the manage expectations. If you are successful every year, then expectations go up. But you really have to manage. Because if you keep talking about the rosy picture, and once you agree on certain numbers, then every month is a hell. Every month, people ask you, headquarters ask you, why are you missing? And in the end, you start sounding like you're making excuses every day, and you start losing trust. Be transparent, very important. When I was in Schering-Plough, last 6 years, there was new management. Whole management team in headquarters changed. And they started to look at Japan. That's when I lost. I missed the target by 40%. So they were thinking, I knew they were talking, should we keep Tori as the head of Japan or change? Because the guy is missing so much. And so what I did was I invited actually 100 people from headquarters every month, every week, and they came and brand manager meeting, whatever meetings. And I stayed whole day with them at their meetings. And they are impressed. And Japan is the only country the president was spending time with us. They went back, they spoke good things about me. Japan, Tori-san, fully committed. And that's how I build trust. So open up your book and be transparent. Now, what's important is the bad news, especially surprise with bad news, has to be avoided. The key is really to give a heads up. If something bad is coming, make sure you inform, be that email or phone call. Phone call is better. Explaining, we thought that wouldn't happen, but it's happening. Just heads up, be prepared. When it doesn't happen, it's fine. But if it happens, then shock is less. So that's one piece. So that's the transparency piece. Now, again, foreign companies can be focusing too much on headquarters and can be forgetting customers. So as a top person of a local operations, you have to take the lead in terms of building relationships with the customers, be that ministry, key opinion leaders, and what have you. And third one is, it's maybe not easy to understand. Create working environment where employees feel worthwhile to work. What this means is do not assume your people stay because they like the company. Because you should assume they are staying as they feel they can grow working in your company. So you have to be very mindful. You try to come up with, you have to be mindful of creating an environment which is stimulating enough for employees to keep working. So these are three things. I have something more on the transparency. Let me just try to. Okay. One thing I want to mention. So let me just go back to transparency. The world is becoming smaller than before. Used to be many things which are done in Japan were only okay in Japan. So things which may have worked in other countries do not apply to Japan. But now there can be more similarities than differences. So we, as a business in Japan is large, many people in headquarters like to help us. So many visits, and they come and they try to contribute, giving us ideas. I tell my people, out of 10 ideas, take 5. So chances are 5 of good ideas coming from home office may work. You can refuse 2. And 3, you may think it doesn't work in Japan, but don't say that. Tell them, thank you for good suggestions. Let us think about it. And we go back after a couple of months or a couple of weeks saying, we looked at it, it doesn't work. So that's how we do that. When I was an aggressive young man, one day I was asked, how can headquarters help you? I said, leave us alone. If I do it, I lose my job. But it used to be okay. But now I tell my people, do not use the word we are different and it's difficult. If you say so, that's the end of the conversation. And people stop asking, but they leave Japan thinking no transparency. So these are things which are very important for local management. Here, the moment of truth. Real global leaders can be born from Japan. I have my theory, pretty pessimistic. Japanese companies, I can maybe talk about pharma industry, have to globalize because Japan was a big market. And overall, we can say it used to be Japan domestic market was big enough where you can really survive. Now, no longer true. The pharma industry, company have to globalize because you need size, you need a lot of sales and profits, so that you can generate money to invest in the new drug development. Now, Japanese companies doesn't have to be pharma industry. Have cash, due to strong yen. It's easy to buy companies, and have products or know-how. But do they have talents, global? I have a doubt. I have some doubt. Oh, sorry. How many Japanese executives we believe can work as global leaders, not as head of the head of offices in other countries. The offices or companies which are owned by Japan doing business in other countries. That's not what I'm talking about. How many of Japanese executives can move into some different country and can do the job of heading, for instance, Boehringer Ingelheim? How many of those? Not many. Maybe 100, maybe 50, maybe less. How am I doing? I have been working in foreign environment companies, and I have been last 8 years in the Shenry Plow and BI2 one of the top 35 in Xiaomi Plus, now 40 top management team members. I've been attending many meetings, and am I feeling comfortable at these meetings? Am I at ease? Am I contributing a lot? No. I have a major handicap with English language. I never spoke a word of English until I became 18 years old. I was never trained at school to speak in public. Yet I am expected as the person who runs one of the major country, which is Japan. BI headquarter people. When I was hired, Mr. Beringer told me, 4 board members told me, Tori-san, you bring with the experiences. We expect you to contribute, not only for Japan, but for the BI Global. So every time I go to the meeting, I prepare like mad. Night before, I tell myself, speak up. Be the first to speak up, because if I don't, I may miss it. So I am struggling every day. But I just wanted to say it. I'm not here to tell you I'm the perfect executive, successful, running a company for the last 20 years. I'm okay. I'm not okay. So that's reality. So that's the real situation of global leadership. Okay. The rest of charts are things you may be reading, newspaper, textbooks, so nothing to write home about. But Japan missed the wave of globalization. Last 20 years, world changed. As I said, Japan used to be a big market, but it's only one of many markets. That's the paradigm changed. A political vacuum. I cannot even count how many prime ministers we had with both hands. There are more than 10. And inward looking, I often, not so often, but I sometimes sit next to the parliament member. I refrain from mentioning who, because there may be election coming up soon. But every time I sit next to those people, they have nothing. 3 weeks ago, I was sitting with somebody who is very important. He had won Nobel, some light touch Nobel. And after 5 minutes, he was sleeping. And he had nothing. He got off. There was a secretary waiting. So he had secretary carrying a bag until he was on board. Once he got off board, there was secretary. So when are they thinking about the future of Japan? No. And they were busy every weekend. They go back to attend funeral, weddings, or home country so that they can get enough food. So very bad situation. This is the Yanai-san of Uniqlo saying Japanese companies are like driving while watching the rear view mirror, going backwards. That's another quote, fall into happy depression. This is the statement by Goldman Sachs Asset Management. I wrote his name. Japan is where people feel very happy with the status quo and no passion for change. Tendency to think about oneself, very selfish. Just one example. When I come back from overseas trip, in the States, for instance, in Germany, you tend to hold the door to let the person behind you come through. So I develop a habit by spending a week abroad. I do that. And I become a doorman because people just pass by. Some do not even say thank you. So very selfish. And so a lack of talent who can be successful overseas. These are the issues. Global leader. There are many writings, lectures to talk about what qualifications will qualify a global leader, but not many definitions. So I try to define what kind of person can be called a global leader, and I came up with 3. One is be able to act as a chairperson of the conference, participants from different countries. Not easy, diverse group, and everyone had his own, her own view. And you have to really let everyone speak up. Once that's done, you summarize. Once you summarize, you make sure there's no more hands going up. If you can do it, that can be global leader. There's nobody from India, I hope. Key is to keep Indians quiet and to make sure Japanese speak up. So that's the chairman's job. Believe me, I had to do a couple of India in my some workshop, and it's not easy to keep them quiet. Second try is somebody who has a good knowledge of Japan, culture, history, politics, everything, and yet having a big global picture. if you deal with top executives or leaders of especially European companies, their culture level is very high. Besides the business, they know a lot of things. So that's if you have it, you can call that person a global leader. And then the personality, this is one I spoke earlier, humanity. If you have a personality that attracts people with natural charm, that induces people to listen attentively when spoken. So these are my 3 different definitions of a global leader. Why global talents not developed in Japan? One, I'm sure many of these things, many things I'll be talking about, you heard. The correct answer matters in Japan. Now, in today's world of diversity, in very rare occasions, there is no correct answer. It's a choice, choosing one best option out of many options. So it's a matter of persuading others with logics. Now in Japan, education is trying to find the right answer. Education focuses on stuffing knowledge, does not really teach you how to form your opinions. When we went to the States, our elder daughter was in the 2nd grade, and I saw the class she was in. The teacher had the newspaper yesterday and saying, read the article. What do you think about this article? And force people to think. It doesn't happen in Japan. As such, the people in Japan, including myself in a way, want to make sure in the global meetings that when you say something, you want to make sure you say something correct. You don't like to be laughed at by saying something stupid. And by thinking about the correct answer, the topic moves on to a different topic, and you lose a chance to speak up. So Americans, I don't know how many Americans are here. No offense to Americans. Raise hands, start talking. While they're talking, they think. So it's really hard to understand native language speakers because that's how they think. That's how they behave in a meeting. So non-native speakers spoken English, easier to understand because they have the message and they think before they speak up. But that can be a handicap. When I was in my way back, elementary school, the school brought American teacher for 3 weeks. And the English teacher was trying to do everything to avoid that native speaker because he could not speak. That's reality, So Japanese school, English teachers don't speak. So how can they teach how to speak? So that's a reality. A lack of risk awareness. Japan is surrounded with a lot of countries which have their own agenda. Russia, China, North Korea now. South Korea, which we thought a friend, is no longer a friend. Pension, low birth rate, a lot of things. But how many Japanese care about these things? Not many. When I come back from different countries, when I open up Japanese newspaper, it's a local paper. It's not global. So these are things which are not really helping in terms of bringing global talents. Core qualities of global talent. First is communication. Again, you have to speak up. Unless you speak up, you have no opinion. So that's the first thing. Now, communication-wise, it's now English, but you don't have to be fluent. It's really to have a clear message you'd like to convey and to have a strong will and passion to make sure you want people to understand what you want to say. So these are key things. Now, I had a good friend who used to be at Roche, and he was Jorge Hero was his name, licensing person, Spanish person, heavy accent. But when he opens his mouth, people listen to him because he had a very colorful way of speaking. And some words, maybe Spanish. But still, he had a clear message, and he had a unique way, slowly spoken, heavy accent, yet, but really draw attention of people. So that can happen. One thing which one tend to maybe neglect is reading communication. I used to do also. It helps if you can write concisely and easier to understand manner. Even today, if I got email from my people, long, not really focused versus two-line focus makes a difference. So I try to be very conscious about writing email when it comes to me writing to top management of Ingelheim Home Office, so that people feel like reading, first of all. After reading, get the message. Differences. That's something I'm working every day. Sharing Plow had as a CEO, Pakistani. MSD today have a black CEO, 2 ladies on the board, and 1 black lady, so diverse. In our company, about 40% of the management committee members are expats. I have a meeting every month. Expats may be away, home leave meetings, and if there's no expat, easy for me in meeting with Japanese. Speak ambiguously, spend a couple of minutes. Do you agree? They all yes. If I know there are, all the expats are present, I prepare the day before, because they ask, and they don't agree unless they're convinced. So am I not feeling discomfort? I mean, I'm not there, but so to live in the global world, you should really get used to that. And actually, if I change my hat, it helps to have diversity. It helps to have different views, but it can be I shouldn't say pain, but extra work. Respect for interest in other people, very important. In Japan, when you talk to somebody from different companies, easy. Shacho, bucho, kacho, you can forget names. In the Western environment, you have to make sure you have to know names. And I'm surprised, talk about, certain things you talked about to certain person 3 months ago, family, hobbies, they remember. So you should be really mindful in the global environment. People remember, so these are things you should be careful. Some young man or young women who manage to learn English, when they start talking to non-Japanese, all of a sudden they become nasty, less polite. Huh? They misunderstand. Toward non-Japanese people, they can be more direct, and they start to become very rude. Big mistake. In the States, in American, I think to a less extent, but it also applies to German. When it comes to communicating, people are very careful. In the written communication especially, or even spoken, you very rarely hear, I disagree. I don't think you're right. They don't say that. People say, you may like to think about this, or have you thought about it? Very indirect message. Yeah? So do not really go, get into the trap, so that into becoming maybe too direct, which can be taken being arrogant or rude. Feeling at ease, very important. I said at the global meeting, am I feeling at ease? I'm not, but I want to be. Just a simple example is, we Japanese tend to be rushing every time. We tend to be tense, like elevator, for instance. One day I was in Osaka Hilton Hotel, and there was a business person who was rushing in the elevator. I knew he was rushing. He's late for the meeting. Elevator went to the lobby floor. You know what he did? He said, please go first. So of course I said, I let him first. But he was relaxed. He was not panicking. But I knew from his body language he was in a hurry. So these are things, I think in the global environment, you used to relax yourself. Toughness, very important. Physically, you cannot beat. No way to beat German, because they eat like mad, they drink like mad, and they stay till late at night. When I joined Boehringer Ingelheim, advice many people gave me, Tori-san, it's like a Japanese company. Meeting, good, but you should stay for drinking, because that's where the truth comes out. I did it once, but that was the last time I did, because no end. They keep drinking, and tough. So, but mentally, you should not be intimidated. So mentally, you can be tougher. So as I said, when I go to global meetings, I tell myself, I beat everybody. Not beat, but in terms of speaking. So you have to be tough. Okay, a few more slides. So some thoughts on how to develop talents. I don't have magic solutions. Start with education reform. Memorizing is important, but at the same time, to teach students how to form their opinions, how to express their views. That's very important. That's missing. Second, the English education. The Ministry of Education, I think, recently announced in the elementary school, the number of classroom, there should be increased number of classes to teach English. That's fine. But they should really talk about who can do it and how it can happen. And I wonder how many of the ministry bureaucrats in the Ministry of Education had been abroad. Very few. And how many can speak English? Maybe no, very few. So how can they come up with education training? There's no way. But that has to change. Overseas experience while still young, that's something we as a company we can do. Now within BI, there are 10 people who are working abroad now. Many young. And I want to see even younger people to go abroad, because if you go abroad when they're younger, you absorb more. But the key is qualities as Japanese come first. As I said, coming back, language ability, becoming rude, that's a mistake. So people, actually, when you go out of the country, you realize how good Japan is, hardworkingness, teamwork, focus on details, all that. So continue to be a good Japanese, maybe to come back as even better Japanese, yet having all the qualification. That's a global talent. Okay, last slide. Why work? I am disturbed by the recent trend of trying to make money quick, being lucky. I don't like that. I think you should earn to reach a certain stage by sweating, by working hard, by getting your hands dirty. Work and life are not in conflict. We can say work can be part of life. Enjoy vacation is good. I mean, you should make sure you take vacation so that you can enjoy. But to work so that you can earn money, to go to vacation, that's wrong. In the States, in Europe, actually everybody goes back home in time for dinner and have nice time for having dinner. And lately, after dinner is over, they start working, email, telephone. They are putting many hours for working. When I was in Switzerland, sometimes I stay late in the office, bad habit I had from Japan. 6 o'clock, every 10 minutes, lights cut off. So every 10 minutes I have to stand up, I have to switch back on. After 10 minutes, lights cut off, and I have to go back. And just to make sure people go back home. So that's culture. While I was working in the States, in the office, my colleagues who are mostly guys, male, I think on the average, they got a phone call 3 times a day from their wives. Calling, car doesn't get started, kid had a fever, dishwasher, something's wrong. They call husband. Maybe too much life into work. Huh? One day I was in the same plane as Giuliani, the famous guy, 9/11, he was a hero. And Giuliani was preparing for his lecture in Japan, obviously, and I was working, he was working. The rest was in sleep, dark. At midnight, he called the stewardess, asked for the telephone. He had that telephone, I was watching him, dark. And he goes, I love you, good night. So he had maybe a young new wife. Huh? He just wanted to say he loves him, he loves her, and good night. Again, maybe life coming too much into work. Now, in Japan, there's a long commute. And you end up spending a lot of time, good part of your daily life, daily time in the office or with your coworkers. So why not enjoy your work and try to find good reasons to make a job fun and enjoyable. if you try to come up with reasons why you don't like the job, there are many. Every day you can find many reasons. But really focus on finding something which tell you, I enjoy my job. And then work can really enrich you. Work can help you becoming a better person. And as a result, you can have a nice life. So that's my view about work-life balance. And I hope I don't get many questions on that. So last slide. I said, I asked questions at the beginning of my talk. How many of you go to abroad, become president? So these are some advice I can give you so that maybe you can continue to strive to realize your ambitions. Have a strong will to achieve your goal, be that personal, be that job. If you have clear view about the future, there are many chances, occasions, opportunities in the company, in the office, and you can see them, and you can grab them. If you're not too clear, things just pass by, and you don't even realize opportunities are there. So be very clear. As long as you keep thinking about I'm going to make it, it happens. Give your best. When you're born, your body size is fixed. Maybe intellectual, power is fixed. But efforts can be for everybody. So you can make more efforts than other people. So efforts, no limit. And in terms of efforts, you are the only judge who can make judgment on how much efforts you make every day. Baseball, sometimes a pitcher does no hit, no run, up through the end of 8th inning. Ninth inning, bad luck, 1 hit. And the score happens. And oftentimes, these pitchers start losing not only 1, 2, 3 scores. So keep running. And that's how I think I should be doing. I'm very afraid of the moment I stop working. It's like a bicycle, just keep running. And just do not slow down. That's my second advice. Third one, be greedy to learn. When you can, like you today, like you are doing all today. When you have time, when you have your will, when you have passion, learn. Can be anything, language, culture, whatever. I'm very happy. I think now, looking back, I feel happy. I did the evening MBA programs for Sophia when I was young. At that time, I have now 3 kids and 3 grandchildren, but I had only 1 son, and I could do it, and I'm happy I did it. Now I cannot do that, so do that. Open up the way by yourself. Very important. If somebody asks me, I give you 40 years going back, how would you like to repeat your 40 years? I'd like to say, give me the same 40 years. I've been so lucky. I've been so fortunate, and I enjoyed every minute of my job last 40 years. Yet, jobs I did, company never gave it to me. I always asked for a new job. Every 3 years, I thought I can do a better thing. And I think I can do that job. I think I can do the job done by that person better. That's how I got the job. I went overseas because I asked. I want to go abroad. Don't be naive to think, as long as you do a good job, someday somebody from HR will come. You are doing a good job. I want you to go there. It will not happen. Every company consists of everybody doing his or her best. Especially if she is good, then if company moves that person, they have to think about replacement. And that's a pain. So it may happen, but it's rather exception. So don't count on your future coming to you. You have to grab that. So for that to happen, you have to perform. And if you go and ask for some job, manager have to say, okay, I should have thought about you. Do that. So you have to every day keep doing a good job, but go for that. With that, you have a good future. So thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Mr. Tori, thank you very much for your passionate speech. This is a very big audience today. I'm very honored to welcome Mr. Tori for two things. First, I was attracted by his charm when I first met him at Boehringer Ingelheim. I think it was last week. When I was exchanging name cards with the general managers at Boehringer Ingelheim, I happened to be pushed out from the room, and I was in the corridor when I met Tori-san. And in some cases, the president will say, "Nakamura, what are you doing in the corridor?" but the way I met him, the way I said hello, he said hello to me. I was very attracted by his charm. So humanity, I think, matters. The second thing, Boehringer Ingelheim and Globis agreed to work on corporate mentorship program. This is a program that we are starting for our full-time students that are coming in September. So we are looking for collaborative projects within the two organizations. So thank you very much for the corporate mentorship program as well. I'd like to, structure the dialogue into three parts. First part, I would like to ask about Boehringer Ingelheim in the pharmaceutical industry. So a little bit about your corporate strategy. The second part, I'd like to ask about Tori-san yourself. How you became president, what is your belief? And the third part, I'd like to talk about the messages you have for the audience. I see many of my MBA students. I see many new audience. Probably you are here because you were attracted by Mr. Tori. So that's how I like to structure the dialogue. I like to leave maybe 20 minutes or so for the audience. So if possible, we like to move quickly with the dialogue. You said that Boehringer Ingelheim is quite unique, being a private company. But on the other hand, you are developing new drugs. How can a private company develop a better drug? How do you see your chances in the way you compete in the industry? May I hear how you foresee your strategy?
Very important part of it. First of all, you need some luck to come up with a new drug. So size is not the only critical factor. You can be very small but can come up with new drugs. But if I try to link it to a family-owned company situation, as the shareholders, they are determined to keep investing until you come up with new drugs. And until you have better employees, they keep investing. Now, if you are publicly traded, in bad times, you are very tempted to touch on R&D because R&D expense is a big portion, 20% of the sales. It's a big money. Even if you touch it, today's business doesn't get affected. Affection will come much later years. In Boehringer Ingelheim, actually, situation is getting difficult for every company, including our company. So we are in a very serious debate as to how to, not cope, but in how to perform better. But in such discussions, the touching R&D and touching people are not talked. It's the last resort, and talk about many other things which we should be doing. We are expanding our franchise in oncology. Last 10 years, nothing came out. If it were a privately held company, they would have given up much earlier. But now, fruits are coming out. So it's really persistence, which comes from not only, which comes from the long-term thinking. And that's the strength of BI. And I think that's the reason that we came up with new drugs, which are helping our growth this year, last year.
Thank you. In your last part, you mentioned about the challenge of Japanese. And on the other hand, you said that you are the only foreign pharmaceutical firm who have R&D functions in Japan. How do you see your chances of your Kobe R&D center? Because Japanese tend to look for correct answers. Japanese may not have, as you said, a team kind of spirit that we used to have. But how do you see your chances in R&D in Kobe?
Maybe two answers. One is the why BI is keeping a research center in Japan is based upon belief on the part of the management in Japanese. You know, the one thing I forgot to mention is talent management-wise. Our business in Japan represents 15% of the sales in BI, while the market represents only 10%. So message from the shareholder, board of managing director is, you are contributing in a big way with sales and profits. Why can't you contribute with talents? If you look at the top management team, or maybe second layer, there are quite a few British, South African, Australian, but non-Asian, no Japanese. And they say so, I mean, they are looking for Asian, especially Japanese. But they have such a desire because they would like to have Japanese people who have strength in terms of maybe teamwork, caring for others, without any incentives, working hard, teamwork, all that. So based upon that belief, management thinks we should have research in Japan. That's one piece. Second piece is our setup is a bit unique. We are part of our research center is integrated in global team. So it's not that we are in charge of certain therapeutic area like diabetes, other centers do some other classes. We are working on the very early stage of idea generation, working with the university, which we give to other centers. So establish ourselves solidly as part of the global centers.
Thank you. I had the fortune to teach a couple of Boehringer Ingelheim employees as MBA students, some in the Japanese program, some in the English program. They have been superb. So I kind of see their possibility in the pharmaceutical industry. Thank you. Now, Tori-san, I'd like to focus the attention a little bit on yourself and how you develop your career. You said that you met a lot of, influential mentors, bosses, a priest in Sophia University. But I would assume that your colleagues had the same kind of opportunity to meet mentors or bosses. But why was it you who developed a special relationship with, let's say, a priest in Sophia University, or maybe your boss in Japan Roche? What was the difference?
Okay, thank you for asking. Two mentors. One is the priest who sent me abroad. On that priest, everybody who had chance to talk to him had the same, was inspired in the same way as I did. So I don't think I was the only person. If you make a survey in my classmate, who is your mentor? They all mention Father Forbes, so that's him. The reason I got so much inspired was, his life was 24 hours for students. He had nothing for himself. All his life was full devotion to students. So he was giving everything to students. And again, I realized I got such an influence when I became the top of the organization. And I started to practice like he used to do, give everything I have to a company, to employees. So full devotion, that's him. Now, second example is I was very fortunate because I was the person who really worked very closely with the boss. Second mentor is his name is Dr. Lowenberger. He was the first boss when I joined Roche. He was the president of Roche, who became number 2 in global Roche. So he was my mentor. I was right after college education, and but I was a handy person. I wrote speeches for him. I took minutes. I wrote responses to the letters which he received. If I give a speech, he just read it. And if I draft a letter, he just signed it. He never asked me how I did it. So that's full trust, a bit scary. As he did it like that, next time I want to make very sure what I do is correct. And I started enjoying to see him smile by me doing things one day earlier and by being more complete. And that was strong motivation. So that really taught me how important trust is. But again, to your question, Nakamura Sensei, the Leuenberger case is as I was fortunate enough to become his assistant for 7 years, I could benefit, which chance other people did not have.
Thank you very much. You mentioned that you went to the evening MBA at Sophia University. And although I see a couple of my MBA students, there are criticisms towards MBA students. Logic-centered, arrogant, aggressive. And you mentioned that when you were young, you were also aggressive, maybe a little arrogant. But how were you able to change yourself? Because if I look at careers of many of my colleagues, sometimes MBA students, there are people who do very well when they are young, and they are promoted to maybe general manager, to director, but it is often difficult to change his or her style, which puts him in a candidate position for a long time, but never to, let's say, a managing director or to a president. What enabled you to change? Can I hear your views?
Very interesting question. First of all, I don't see, I shouldn't say anything, but I think it's okay to be aggressive. Arrogance may be not good, but so some air of arrogance may happen. But when you're, doing your best to try to get to where you want to be, you have to. You have to demonstrate you're better than others. You have to prove you're better than others, and for that it takes aggressiveness. So it's okay. That's fine, as long as you have a common sense to care for others. But arrogance can be okay. Aggressiveness is okay. I never met any of the senior people when I was young, and when I was a Namaiki guy, to tell me, Tori, you should change. Nobody told me that because I was producing a lot. I was fast. I was good. So people didn't like me, but they had to live with that. So that's okay, as long as you realize that should change. How I could really change? I think I was always very conscious that I was maybe too fortunate. And I used to have many people who are older than myself. When I went to the field to visit some hospitals, the person reporting to me, Dr. Thought, was my boss because I was a younger person. So I was very conscious. I was mindful of how these people are thinking about working for me because that was not their choice. Again, my father, Forbes, may have maybe a lot to do, being humble. So somewhere in my mind, being maybe too lucky, and when time comes, I should start repaying that. So that's been there. So I think it happened naturally to me.
For advice towards the audience today, is it position or is it age that allows that kind of shift in the mentality? If you produce a lot, as long as you're bringing results, you are contributing for the organization. But if you think of a larger objective, probably it is better for you to change. Was it position that brought you the change, or was it some sort of age or time? Or how do you see yourself?
I think it's the combined, but I would say more position. I actually realized how lucky or how fortunate I was when I jumped out of Roche. When I was in Roche, when I came back from Switzerland, during 6 years, we launched 9 compounds, record that time. And people thought that was due to me. But I knew that was not due to me. That was due to my colleagues working for me because they're professionals. When I left Roche and when I joined Rhône-Poulenc Aurora, I was nobody. And the management committee was consisting of the members who joined the company only 2 years ago. So different culture, different orientation. And, but I had to, that's something I had to manage. But what drove me was, as I said, the people who are in Rhône-Poulenc Aurora. Situation was not easy. Aurora was a generic company. Aurora was a laid-back French RX company. Combination-wise, business was bad. There were only 2 major brands. But everybody working there, working like mad. And I wanted to help them. I wanted to make them feel better. And that was a drive. And it was eye-opening for me. Different company, people are there who are doing it the best. So I think position which gave me maybe ability or power to give impacts to change the organization. I think that changed me.
Tori-san, my last comment. How can we develop a global career in the pharmaceutical industry? What would your advice be towards the audience today if they want to develop a global career?
I would say the best is really to go abroad. So if you have ambition to go abroad, just let people know, HR, your boss, you like to go. Otherwise, people will not recognize you. So you have to keep talking about it. You like to go next to abroad. While you do that, you prepare yourself. This is a great chance, but also language command. And language for you to be accepted to go abroad, not that. Once you go there, unless you have certain command, then you don't learn much. Now we have some cases where great performer in Japan, but once that person is sent abroad, that person often tends to be viewed as an average player. Because to work along with people from different countries, like Singapore, any Asian country, or Western countries, in the English language driving society, not easy. So be prepared, because you may be great, but that cannot be seen because of the language command. So that's my advice.
Thank you very much.